Panel. All right, we're getting there. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for squeezing some time out of your day here for us, for yourselves, for the channel here. All right, well, since it is O2, and again, thank you all for having made the time. Um, in case anyone has been very firmly under a rock for the last week or so, I'd imagine many of you are now aware that Copilot for 365 has since been made available. So, that being said, we have a lot we want to try and get through today, and a lot of thoughts and ideas we'd love to share. Without further ado, and we're gonna miss Alex's back to the day on this one here, but we really did want to just jump right in. So that being said, here we go. So Alex Laflamme, our Microsoft Partner Program and Incentives Manager, essentially doing God's work when it comes to the partner program, navigating the ins and outs, and helping you get the most out of these programs, or out of this program in particular. I myself am James Wilburn, so I'm the PSM here. So essentially just helping in any way we can when it comes to the sales of Microsoft products. That includes your own understanding, your team's enablement as well. Again, touching on programs, incentives, again, any way we can make it make sense. If it fits into your bucket, that's what we're here to do. Our colleague Samuel's on camera, but he is very, very active in the chat. So he is our licensing and security specialist. So all of the nitty gritty details that my brain just doesn't catch, Sam is there to save us from. Boom. So that's it for the intros. Again, if there's any questions or thoughts at any time, do throw them into the chat, please. And again, we'd love to collect them all because there's some blind spots. As much as we have been pretty deep in this for some time, there's definitely a blind spot or two we haven't considered. So do keep us honest there. Stuff that we didn't say or we don't touch on enough. Again, let your thoughts and your concerns be known. This will be recorded, so you will have access to the deck as well in the coming days. I think that was it from housekeeping. Alex, anything I'm missing?
No, just we have a lot of things to cover. We have a lot of information to go through. So we've tried to keep it, as straightforward as possible. So the agenda divided into three simple sections. 365 Copilot is now available on CSP. What is Copilot and Copilot Pro? Things that have been also released. And what is Teams Premium, which is a great kind of midway solution for customers that aren't ready to be fully onto AI and Microsoft 365 Copilot, but have the potential to get there. And of course, we're going to try to have as much time as possible for the Q&A. For anyone that's very kind of annoyed by the little bells sound right now, it will stop as soon as we have everyone in. So yeah, we're. I don't believe there's a way to mute that intro sound, so it's just going to be a few more seconds for that. So if you want, we can jump right into it, right? So news of the week. M365 Copilot is out. We're going to retake the slide that we had on our previous webinar on this in December for awareness. So the change from the slide from the last time is that now Office 365 E3 and E5 are now also eligible base licenses for M365 Copilot. Those were not part of our last webinar. And it does seem that Microsoft has enabled the syntax service for Office E3 and E5, even though it does not include the EMS suite, so that the user experience should be the same across all of the base licenses, except potentially business standard. We're still waiting on confirmation from Microsoft on that one. But as far as we understand it, there should be no more differences in user experience from M365 Copilot when it's added to one of those base licenses. Price is still shown as $30 USD per month per user. But as we'll see on the next slide, there's some quirks to the pricing scheme. As far as general availability, November 1st, that was for EA. For Microsoft Direct and CSP, it was launched January 15th, so about a week ago. For the EES and CASA, so that's the educational space, it's still going to be February 1st. And for the GCC type customers, nothing has been announced yet. As you know, with government cloud, it's always a little bit more sensitive, which is why it has not been released or hasn't no data on that yet. From that slide, now what is available from it? So M365 Copilot is available in the Sherweb portal, so the Cumulus portal. The only licensing option that's available right now is annual, right? So it's prepaid annual. So $360 per user divided by 12 months is still $30 per user, but you have to pay everything up front. Preempting some of the questions that we're going to get, all of these have not been confirmed by Microsoft, but based on experience and the way the Microsoft programs work, we do want to mention that we believe that eventually annual paid monthly will be coming. Monthly terms will be coming as well with that same 20% premium. And some sort of internal use rights benefits will be coming as well. When they do come, they should be part of the modern work solutions designations, but they may be across all different solutions designations. None of this has been confirmed by Microsoft. Even the last one we asked on the Microsoft webinar last week, and they said that they had no plans at this time to add Copilot as part of internal use rights. But again, from experience, very confident that in the fairly near future, there will be announcements on this. For questions, you don't have to raise your hand. I don't know if that was on purpose, but you can just write your questions directly in the chat. Sam will be able to answer right away from there. So as far as M365 Copilot it is out. Start buying it, start purchasing it for your customers, start playing with it, start getting ready for it. The general technical requirements have not changed, right? So this deck will be available after this webinar so that you have access to all of these links. So like I mentioned in a prior webinar, you want to have all of your endpoints follow the Microsoft 365 taxonomy so that they're discovered properly. There's things that you need to do in the Teams admin center so that Copilot talks to your other applications. You want to make sure you have the best quality of service for the Copilot engine to kind of talk to the end customer users. So network connectivity principles are important. And there are certain features like WebSockets and things like that that you may need to enable, turn on, turn off to get the best experience. We are going to have there's two slides at the end of this presentation that are chock full of technical resources for admins, deployment guide, assessment guide. So these are all brand new. Some of them, the ink's not even dry yet from Microsoft to be able to help partners deploy Copilot and make sure their end customers are not putting anything at risk and they're actually getting their money's worth.
Yeah, and I think maybe just a point to that here is, as we see on the screen, it is prepare, and this is a little bit more when Copilot being deployed is imminent. There's still a lot of legwork we very strongly suggest in terms of your data governance, your identity governance as well, being in place prior, site management and so on prior, and then this kind of more in the now. If we say like a deployment of Copilot, this is the cherry on top or the last dots to be connected.
Yep.
My favorite part of school was this right here. It's a quick little video here. Nothing too. Hopefully, not too many of you have seen this, but it's not more of the same for the most part.
Yeah, and this one is only about a minute long, and the goal of this one is really whenever you're talking to end customers and they're concerned about privacy and security when it comes to M365 Copilot. So, with the philosophy that an image is worth 8,000 words, we have about 20,000 words worth of images in the next minute and a half.
Microsoft 365 Copilot is transforming work with the power of generative AI. It's built on Microsoft's comprehensive approach to enterprise-grade security, compliance, privacy, identity, and responsible AI. Copilot automatically inherits your organization's Microsoft 365 security, compliance, and privacy policies, so you know your data is protected and always in your control. It all starts with your Microsoft 365 tenant. Data stored in your tenant is encrypted and only available to the users within that tenant. Your existing Microsoft 365 permissions and policies ensure that data won't leak between users and groups. And Copilot users only have access to data they've been granted permission to see in Microsoft 365 using the same technology customers have relied on for years. Your tenant sits inside the Microsoft 365 service boundary, where Microsoft's commitments to security, compliance, data location, and privacy are upheld. The Copilot large language models, or LLMs, that process your data sit within that same boundary, much like other Microsoft 365 services. Microsoft does not have eyes-on access, which means no one can view your data. Your data is not used to train the LLMs. And our EU customers can be confident that their data is processed within the EU data boundary. Microsoft 365 Copilot, enterprise-grade security and privacy for the era of generative AI.
So this should help, especially when customers are concerned about what happens to their data. How safe their company data, any IP, any sensitive data. It follows the same policies that you have already in place, and it sits within the Microsoft security boundary. So there's no outside communication. There's no way for the data to leak just because of this service. Uh, as James mentioned, we do recommend very strongly to have a content management policy already set up in place. Whether or not you want to use Copilot or any other AI tools, it's just the new way of accessing data, the just enough access, just in time access for users, so that you don't get any unwanted behaviors or any type of data leaks. In here, there is a link as well that people can use about the content management policies, best practices, and all of that. That's available as well. Again, just a reminder that this part is very, very important so that you have the best experience for your users on M365 Copilot.
Absolutely. And maybe we'll break for a quick poll, I believe. Just in terms of us gathering feedback as we look to deliver more content, more enablement sessions, training, roadshows under various names and titles here, but just different ways that we want to be able to support you, and kind of just having a lay of the land as to where you are will definitely keep us in the right direction. So the first one here, where are you in your AI journey? Obviously, you're attending here today, so vague awareness as a minimum might be it. But yeah, just really curious to see where everyone is here. This isn't being shared outside of Sherweb. It's not changing too much. It's just what level of content do we produce? Are we super technical? Is everyone all in and you don't need us much? Or is it, you're still kind of making your way through? Again, this is it's going to keep us on. One question I can't answer because I'm doing the chatting here today. The business value, though, this is something that again, we just had a sessions. We're planning a Copilot roadshow. We're gonna head on the road here not too long. But that business value, how can you monetize both for you as MSPs and how can your customers take advantage to the efficiency, and what does that translate to in terms of dollars, in terms of us explaining or demonstrating that ROI? So yes, absolutely a pretty loaded topic, but one that we're really eager to get into, and most likely, if not the next webinar, then the one after, we'll get a lot more into that business side of things, because it's what we're all here to do.
It is the main, there's so many ways we could talk about this topic right now, but because of the fact that Copilot was released last week and other Copilots were also released at the same time, we felt that our partners are probably getting a lot of different questions from their end customers. What is this Copilot versus what is that Copilot? I saw this one, it was cheaper. It says it works with my apps and all of that. So we want to make sure that you partners are well equipped to answer those questions and especially prevent consumers on buying the wrong product. So on that topic, Copilot and Copilot Pro.
Wanna go ahead. I can go. Copilot on the web. So this is one that we may have. We were originally introduced to this product as Bing Chat and then Bing Chat Enterprise. And now it has hopefully found its final name this quarter, and that being Copilot. Simply Copilot, so not Pro or for this or that, but really just Copilot. So this is an AI chat, essentially, in which case your commercial data is protected. You are able to interact with it as, if anyone recalls, similar to a Chat GPT, for example. It's very conversational. It is persistent chats, remembers previous questions or answers that it gave or that you posed. And again, the data is not used to train the model and is not accessible to anybody outside of your organization. So same boundaries that we see from the Microsoft space in general. If you have more to add here, Alex, like my
No,
high
that's
level. Here's the stuff that's important, and the rest is a little bit more in the
yeah,
weeds.
no,
But
it really is, to kind of dispel, so Microsoft has a habit of renaming everything Copilot right now. So what used to be known as Bing Chat, which for anyone that doesn't know, that's the competitor to Google for search, right? Is now renamed Copilot whenever it comes to work. But you can still use Bing Chat. Let's say you open a private window and all that. You would still have GPT-like, features that are available for free. But obviously, that one would not be protecting any of the terms that you're putting in there. So any type of reverse engineering on the prompts and all that, you would be at risk. So anyone with an account on M365 with a qualifying base license has access to Copilot for Work. Whenever you go to the bing.com/chat URL, you will see your user, you will see a notification that your commercial data is protected, so you don't have to worry about any leakage, any, again, sensitive or important information to go out into the wild from what you're doing. And then on this comparison chart, we did want to show the difference with M365 Copilot. So as you can see, it's a much more comprehensive type of solution that includes everything in your Microsoft Graph, so everything in your Microsoft ecosystem to give context on those answers. I did also see some questions in the chat that are related to, the value proposition of Copilot, how people can use it. For that, we'll mention it again. This is the second webinar that we are doing on this. We do have a first webinar that we did in December where we did talk about the features of Copilot, how it helps you save a lot of time, how if I didn't have Copilot in Teams, I would feel like I'm missing a limb because I've been using it so much. So there are, lots and lots of applications. It's mainly a productivity enhancer and a time saver. Do reach out to your account manager for a link to that webinar. It will be made public very shortly, but right now it's still available only on demand. But it does address all of these questions.
yeah, another resource will be included in the follow-up to this webinar is one piece of collateral from Microsoft in particular that I've taken a liking to. It's a customer scenario. So this will really show you a day in the life as a marketer, as a sales exec, and various different business roles. It'll just show you, okay, well, you might leverage Copilot for this and Copilot for 365, maybe to generate a proposal, Excel to analyze the data of past sales, and so on. But it'll kind of take you through that web of how you can leverage the various Copilots to go about your day. And again, that'll flesh out some more of the application of it or the value.
So as briefly mentioned, right? So Copilot, as long as you have at least business standard, is kind of part of your Office suite. So you will have access to that. You just go to that bing.com/chat URL. You will get confirmation that everything is protected. If you have users that want to have their first foray into AI, but they don't have any Microsoft or they don't have any of those base plans, it is an offering that can be done as a standalone for $5 per month. So much cheaper than the purchased version of ChatGPT, but it's mainly to use it as a way to kind of promote business standard, business premium, and so forth, versus paying for it alone. A lot like Teams is included in all of those application suites, so you don't need to purchase Teams as a standalone. It's just that it is available on its own. And then,
Yeah, maybe just a last little note there is that upgrade or that upsell, if you will, from business basic to a standard. Well, again, if they want to dabble into AI, it's not like you can definitely add the per user license here, but upgrading to business standard, getting those apps as well, um, just kind of makes a lot more sense if you ask little me.
and then the thing that kind of threw a wrench into everything was the announcement at the same time as the release of M365 Copilot on CSP with the release of Copilot Pro. Copilot Pro is not an enterprise or a business product. It is a consumer or home type product. It is, yeah, it's just saying like it's for individuals, written very much in small. So this is something that an individual can purchase directly from the Microsoft website. It's not available through any other channel. It is the direct competitor with GPT Plus. So as you can see, the price point is very similar for it. The descriptions of what it can do is pretty much a copy paste from GPT Plus. Access to GPT-4, GPT-4 Turbo, Visual, DALI, all of that stuff is in this service. And for users that have access to Microsoft 365 family, it will link up with those Microsoft 365 apps. And that's the part that creates the most confusion when it comes to end customers talking to MSPs, because they're reading this, they're reading it diagonally. They see Copilot Pro, they see it works with M365 apps. They're convinced that this is the service that they want and that it's much cheaper than the $360 a year upfront cost. But you have to try your best to get them to understand that this is something completely different and that it will not link up with their business standard, business premium, or anything M365 apps that they have on a business tenant. So if this is something that they want to purchase for their own personal, type of experience service, to kind of not be linked to the data, it's a great way. It's a great learning tool for that. But it should not be part of your MSP technology stack because you want to keep things on the business and enterprise family side of things.
Just let that pause for a second, because again, that's probably in the last week or so as we see obviously an influx of questions, as I think some more knowledge could have been shared prior from Microsoft, that is. So just let that marinate. Copilot Pro is really a consumer product, and as Alex mentioned, more akin to ChatGPT than Copilot for 365, the way I view it.
And it is ironic that in the title they have, Copilot Pro, Pro being short for professional, but it is a home type product. It is not a professional type product. We did put in a brief comparison chart just so you can kind of see that you have a lot like GPT Plus, priority access. You have what's called boosts whenever you want to generate images that are available on a daily basis. And it can link with your M365 apps on a Microsoft 365 personal or family subscription, and not M365 that we all have come to learn and love on the business and enterprise side.
Maybe we'll pause for another quick poll here. So the last one is just kind of where you are on your journey. So you obviously as MSPs, it says the in crowd, they're the ones who receive these invites. And then this one will be a little bit more focused around your customers. So what is the demand like been from your base? Are they very excited and the oh my god with the flailing fingers? Do they see some potential? Or they've heard of it but they're not quite sure? Or is it just fear and the AI machines are coming for us all? Just trying to get a gauge there. I want to have a little fun here, but yeah, just to get a little gauge of what you're feeling from the market. And again, you're our um, uh, you're our lighthouse, so to speak. So you're the ones who are going to guide what we're able to do here. Um, Conveniently, Lighthouse, for those who didn't know, is a great tool for Microsoft partners. There is a sales advisor component to there, to Lighthouse, which helps you to discover opportunities. And there are Copilot opportunities that are being highlighted in there as of late. So just as we wait for the poll to get completed here, do take a look because there are some opportunities there. So whether they see some potential, which seems to be the response here today, which is great. Well, now you can go and act on those via Sales Advisor. You can see which customers may have a greater propensity or an interest in regards to these solutions. And then Microsoft has collateral to support you on that conversation, demo, and so on. Nice. Thank you all for sharing your
Great
wisdom with us
participation.
here. Super cool.
So yeah, just brief recap that again, you can have it as a $5 add-on, but the opportunity for Copilot is really to get users to upgrade to business standard or business premium. It's more features, more security, anyway, a better experience for them. And with that Copilot, generative AI type of chat, they can start prompting. They can start getting used to that new way of talking to the computer.
Yeah, and then they can start to build their own ROI map. Okay, what does success look like internally? What would be some objectives, and they can start to form what Microsoft's referring to as a center of excellence, but essentially an internal panel or a pilot group that are going to define what good looks like with regards to AI, how far they want it to go, where they want it integrated, where it would see the biggest returns within their processes as well. So again, Microsoft is all in on the AI train here. If we look at process mining through some of the Power Platform stack that came out recently, so there are a multitude of ways that AI can be used, whether for CSPs, for MSPs like yourselves, even for the customer to get a fast track towards their success in this new space. Super cool. So we're just talking a little bit there about Copilot. So again, helping distinguish between the various Copilots out there. Copilot being the Bing, previously Bing, sorry, the name's Microsoft. But yeah, getting Copilot there is again that first interaction with prompting, getting your customers more or less ready, get them familiar, and let them see. And all it's going to take is a couple quick queries, a couple prompts in there, and they're like, "Oh my goodness, that saved me 20 minutes." That blank page syndrome, who some of our competitors seem to have taken that kind of tagline. But it's let's avoid that. And again, just putting this in your customers' hands at a very low barrier to entry here is one way. Um, the other way, we can look at them dabbling and them being our customers. I should refer to them more eloquently, surely. But the way for our end users to be adopting this AI technology, or at least to dabble a little bit more so. Because we understand paying up front for a year for a license you've never tried, it's a little hesitation if you're like me. So starting off somewhere with the Copilot or Teams Premium, which are two features that have been out for some time now, and some time being, let's say, a year on Teams Premium, and maybe 4 months, 5 months or so on the Bing Chat side of things. But these are AI tools that are ready, that are fully baked, that are entirely developed, and are very accessible. And their price points are a lot more forgiving, again, than we compare to that 1 year upfront take it or leave it approach that we're currently seeing. Again, we did put in our kind of unconfirmed, we do expect that stance to soften and become available on a monthly, just nothing confirmed as of yet. I digress though. So Teams Premium, essentially this is an add-on to a Teams license, which is going to give you more intelligent meetings, more advanced protection. So if we look at security features within Microsoft Teams, what concerns webinars, for example, and then the richer engagement. Microsoft says it, so I definitely believe it. But the intelligent productivity and the advanced protection are where I see the greatest values there. So again, so if we look at the intelligent productivity, and we thought it was really interesting just to show that it's not necessarily the bar, and this is not Teams Premium is not the end all be all. But just start to think of what can be done with just Teams Premium. And I say just, it's a heck of a license. But then when you have that complemented with Copilot, now it's really another level that neither one can independently achieve. But together, again, Microsoft did a pretty swell job in matching the
Mhm.
feature sets here.
Yeah.
Um,
One of the beauties of Teams Premiums is the fact that it does have a lot of the same features that your users will want to use with Copilot. So like the meeting recap, a lot of the ways to be able to kind of go into a specific section instead of having to rewatch the whole thing. But to me, the biggest selling point for this is that it does not require the end customer to do a full cleanup on their tenant for permission management, for data governance, and all of that. So, if you have customers that you think would be ready to at least use this with Teams meetings, get more productivity out of those Teams meetings, but you know for a fact that their tenant is not secure and is not set up the proper way. This is going to be a great, kind of first foray into AI, a much lower price point for commitment, and will get them excited to see some of those productivity gains and those time savings from that intelligent recap, so that when they eventually add Copilot on day zero, you'll be able to get those extra productivity boosts from that service. As we mentioned in the prior webinar, the features on M365 Copilot, depending on which app you're using, depending on how much indexing has been done on your tenant, you know, your mileage may vary, but when it comes to Teams and the Teams meetings and all of that, M365 Copilot is all of it's cracked up to be. It's like the hype, doesn't even kind of touch some of the things that you can do with that meeting. And for some of us, especially working remotely, having calls with partners and customers, being able to be 100% on the call, on that conversation, interacting with the other person, and not having to scribble down notes, remember action items, understand, what they may have meant, with a specific tone that they use, understanding a reference for a joke. Sometimes you can ask all of these questions to Copilot after the call, and the results are really amazing for that. And whenever it's a meeting that you had last week or 2 weeks ago, well, it's amazing to have that refresher. It's as if the meeting just ended. You keep asking those questions, and you have exactly like the type of data and insights that you would have wanted, as if you just hopped off the call yourself.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the way I kind of look at it is the intelligent recap. So the Teams Premium functionality there, it's going to look at what was. So it's going to give you, let's say, it's definitely not the right way, but if you think of it as kind of a read access to be able to look back on what happened. Whereas with Copilot, it's now you can definitely look back, but as opposed to you needing to think and okay, well, I have to go and sift through these meeting notes or go and see when Mona Kane was speaking and listen or grab the transcript from those sections. Well, now I can just ask Copilot, hey, did Mona Kane make any jokes uh, during this meeting? A lot more interactive, a lot more intuitive, a lot quicker. So having access to the data is great. And Team Stream does a really good job of providing everything that you see to the left of the screen here. But being able to interact with that, compare and contrast that one upness, like Alex says, I don't think the hype train went too far off the rails on this one. I think I do honestly, and for anyone who knows me here, I do have some mixed feelings about how Microsoft goes to market with some of their stuff. I do think some aspects of Copilot perhaps could um, they could have pumped their brakes a little bit in terms of their messaging. The meetings is not one where I think they skimped. I think they might have actually undersold.
Mhm.
Um, like you said, Alex, it's a great point.
Yeah.
And another way we can look at that again. So just another example, I guess here. Sorry, it should have been a slightly different one. But again, so you can see the recaps. What we're showing here. She noticed that there was a task. The meeting notes again, task assignments are all there. So these are just incredible feats. Being able to go back through the meeting. And again, you can see when Daniela was speaking, you could see it's in kind of a purpley pink versus Amanda, who has, those little bits of orange. So she was more or less quiet. Bruno didn't have much to contribute in the first 80% of the meeting, and he picked up a little bit at the end. Way to go there, Bruno. So you can get all of this from Teams Premium. But again, having that actionable insight, and when we look at Copilot being attached to that, it's a game changer. So again, just dabbling that low barrier with Teams Premium, great. Having Copilot as a layer on top of that is that wow factor. This is where customers are going to be really impressed, quite honestly. So again, just highlighting here how the table was generated. Again, this is asking in English, create a table with pros and cons. No fancy schooling needed for a prompt like that. The output, though, and the data you're able to pull from it, world class. Good. And again, so it's we didn't want to kind of just keep check marks all the way through it here, but if we look at Teams, so some of the AI, the noise suppression perhaps, and live captions or transcriptions, great. Real-time translation, intelligent recap, getting some insight in terms of prompting through Teams Premium. So some parts of this are available, but again, really, Copilot is where it all comes together. And now we start to integrate the other apps into there as well. It's a whole, it's a game changer there, and I really don't think Microsoft undersold it too much. Maybe oversold the Excel, but I'm definitely not an Excel proficient person to really be the litmus test there. But yeah, Teams is where I leverage it. Chat, the M365 chat is probably the tool I leverage the most.
Yeah. And we kind of want to have it as like a a little progression table, right? Like you first get them on Teams, get to use the features of Teams, then unless you've done your homework on the tenant, get them to use Teams Premium. It's a very low cost. They get to see those intelligent recaps. They get to kind of again be part of that conversation 100%, having that note taker that has chapter markers and all of that, and then eventually being able to have a conversation with the transcript of the meeting through M365 Copilot, get some insights, compare that meeting with other meetings. So it really is kind of getting people used to using AI, as we had to get people to use the mouse. We had to get people to use automatic driving, EVs, like all of that. It's just the adoption change management. If you're very strong on doing that with your end customers, you're gonna approve this kind of like progression chart to ease people into using AI.
And maybe to that point, right? So as counterintuitive as it is, as sometimes opportunistic as my chair would have me be, it, we don't necessarily want everyone jumping into Copilot today, the 365 Copilot that is. And so yes, it's there for sale and just blast these things out. There is really a good value, and like Alex said, that adoption and change management of having it done properly, having the tenants set up, having expectations understood or explained to them, and even the art of the possible and what could be. But managing those expectations again, because we don't want people to dive in, be committed for a year, have an experience that is underwhelming or unsecured, that leaves a sour taste in their mouth, right? So we really want to navigate this deployment. We know it's a rush, we understand and appreciate, and we love the excitement, honestly, but we want to do it right. We don't want anyone to get burnt or have any bad experiences. So measure twice, cut once. You can start the slow progression Copilot for the web, Teams Premium, welcome to AI. As we get the foundation of your tenant secured, and now we can go to the full-fledged Copilot for 365. But it's this evolution that we're looking to just to share our thoughts and our suggestions around.
So this kind of summarizes, what you were talking about. Again, when they're not ready yet for M365 Copilot, or you think there might be too many potential pitfalls for the end customers, they may be super excited. This is a great type of, again, like midway solution, much lower commitment. One other thing that's really good about that is that it's going to get them to use Teams more. So if they've been using another type of service for their discussions, their customer meetings, and so forth, now they will be on Teams. So if in 6 months they do get Copilot, Copilot will have access to the last 6 months worth of these notes and these transcriptions. So they'll be able to provide insights on all those conversations, and then the user will be used to prompting and all that. So we'll be able to get more value out of that, because this is really like the car, right? Like generative AI, it's like the invention of the car. So, but people need to learn how to drive. You don't want to just give a bunch of 18-year-olds brand new cars with no driving courses and all that. There's going to be some accidents. There's going to be some casualties. So let's get them those training wheels first. Get used to doing it. Lock down the tenant to make sure there's no data leakage or unfortunate events, and then they'll be able to see all of these gains for productivity, time saving, workforce shortage, new employees come in. When your customers are adopting the new technology, and then they hire recent grads. Those recent grads have been using ChatGPT to cheat on exams, to help on exams since day one. So they'll be expecting those types of tools. So you'll be ready for that workforce.
Yeah, and maybe just a callback to the previous webinar here as well. And again, we will share the link in our recap here upcoming. The idea of getting to the cloud, like Alex said, it's Copilot can only see what it can see. If your chats and your webinars have been done elsewhere and you're using different tools for quoting or what have you, well, Copilot doesn't have access to that, so its output won't be as wow as what we've been able to see in some cases since our adoption for some of us here internally. Getting the data ready to search, getting the tenant ready as well from a posturing standpoint. So really important steps. We will be diving into detail in each of them as this kind of process evolves over the next weeks and months. But yeah, just to kind of plant that seed, and again, you'll get content to the previous session.
Our goal initially was to have this conversation on this second webinar, thinking that Copilot wasn't going to be released yet, but because it was released last week with all of the other Copilot options, we've even seen, throughout this webinar in the chat, a lot of confusion still as to, which Copilot is. Copilot for Sales the same thing? What is Copilot Pro? You said it wasn't included. Now it's included. Like, it really is important to kind of demystify those and get a strong grasp of the different offerings, especially when it's a product that customers will talk to you about. So unlike different services, I don't think you've ever had a customer tell you about Power BI and how you wanted it. But when it comes to generative AI, Copilot, and all that, you will have customers and potential customers asking you about it. So it's very important to understand the differences, between those, right? Because all squares are rectangles, but not all rectangles are all squares. For some of the last questions that I've seen coming, this last part that we're going to get into is about very useful resources. Some of them, again, came out just a couple of days ago from Microsoft. So I really, really recommend to look at those links. We'll publish them. You can Google them as well. This is all stuff from Microsoft and Microsoft Mechanics. I think we can go to that.
Yeah, I was going to say Microsoft Mechanics has some pretty good stuff out there. I'll probably put something on LinkedIn a little bit later on today. Let's run one more. We have two more polls here for you. Again, they're very unintrusive and they're pretty painless. So let's pop number 3 up there. It's another multiple choice one. So around Copilot adoption in particular. And here we're looking for hesitations. So we kind of got they're more or less interested, maybe a little hesitation, but generally sentiment out there, both from partners and from customers, seems to be favorable. If you were to say there's a challenge in terms of you offering this to your base, in terms of your customers' adoption of Copilot, Copilot for 365, or one of the other amazingly, unconfusingly named products out there, what would that look like? And again, feel free to throw anything that doesn't fit into one of these boxes here into the chat, but just trying to get your gauge. And again, the objective, quite realistically here, when we put this together was, okay, well, what can we produce in terms of collateral, in terms of content, in terms of training, and where are the sticking points, where the hesitations, where the challenges that our base is seeing. So again, we'll be really, really appreciative, again, just to keep us honest. Is what we're after here. Yeah, so it's pretty mixed bags. I think the questions are really, really happy Go team in terms of putting them together. So definitely that upfront annual commitment. There is something that we're kind of toying with internally. We may have a way to soften that potentially. So once we have just an additional confirmation, we'll be sure to put that out there, hopefully on the follow-up email if applicable. Data governance, absolutely. And this is one that I was nervous about. And I was like, I just need Copilot and forget the rest and just get me in there, put me in, coach. It's great and really ambitious, and we love the oomph that you put out there. But having it done properly is so important. So hats off to the 28% there on data governance being a challenge. In terms of MSP familiarity, your ability to whether that be to speak to the possibilities. Again, I think in the follow-up email we'll have something to support you in that front. But your familiarity with it and your ability to support, we put it in there. Again, mainly from a data governance, what if, how do we improve prompting within the end users as well. So we'll have some collateral we'll be able to share to support that side of it. We're cool. There's 280 people in here, 178 responses. So I know you're all just grabbing a cup of coffee, I am sure, and you'll answer as soon as you can, but we'd love to get as much feedback on that as possible. We'll carry on. Thank you all so much for having shared that. So quick summary, we'll look at some of the resources here in a moment as well, and even for some of the more frequent questions, maybe we could even jump through some of those live. But essentially what we saw today, and this deck will be shared. We covered some of the licensing in regards to M365 Copilot. The pricing we saw is the annual, not our doing, we assure you. But we're looking for clarity on that as well. The considerations prior to M365 Copilot being deployed. Again, this is the bigger part, right? And the licensing revenue is part of what we all do, right? It's part of our cause. However, the service and the support around that, being that consultant, that source of truth for your customers, this is where the bread and butter ideally would live. So those considerations, so important here as you establish your own Copilot practice. It sounds crazy, just 1 week out here, but this will, or we envision, or I do, and I'd imagine some on my team do as well. AI will be its own practice in and of within your existing practice. Various Copilots, whether that be Bing Chat, Copilot Pro, being the consumer products, or Copilot and Copilot for 365, Copilot Studio, sales advisors as a notion of Copilot, the security Copilot, it's en route, and just a Copilot for this and for that. If you look under your chair, you also get a Copilot, but they're everywhere, just to distinguish between the commercial and the consumer products, essentially what we're going through there. And then AI today, so we call it AI in meetings, but the intelligent recap as part of Teams Premium, and how Copilot is, again, that level up. So it's not the ultimate goal of Teams Premium, although it is a really cool product. That next level of AI interaction that's available to you with Teams Premium, complementary pieces. Again, as we just try to inspire and just say, hey, well, here's an opportunity for practice. The way we kick a lot of ideas around internally is, okay, well, Alex and I, as much as we're buddies on these webinars, and we are buddies, hopefully in real life as well, it is, he has one way and I have one way, and our colleague Sam and our colleague Anne-Marie and Megan and Tram and Nikhil and Mike, and we all have our own different ways that we would each run our own independent MSPs. And we put that into a pot and we say what is most likely. And this is how we come up from these webinars. So again, there's 30 ways to go about launching a practice like this, to getting into this space. And again, we'll share our 2 cents for what that's worth with any of you. Just reach out to your account rep, Alex, myself, Sam, from the sales side of Modern Work here, and we'll gladly brainstorm and even tell you what we're seeing from other partners, or from what we're seeing from a Microsoft suggested approach to this new era. It's a mouthful. I apologize for making you guys listen to all that.
So 2 pages of useful resources. Those, again, will be shared with you. So on the sales focus side, there is a new CSP partner opportunity deck. So if you're looking for business cases, ways to have a sales approach to talk to end customers about how to use Copilot from 365, this is the one for you. There are the same Get AI Ready campaign assets A lot of those assets were used in our first webinar. So if you like that first webinar, you can have access to the same things. There is a new Copilot for M365 optimization assessment. So this is great whenever you have that first foray into a prospective customer to be able to kind of see how ready their tenant are, how applicable Copilot would be for them. James mentioned earlier that the sales advisor in Lighthouse is also a great way to identify opportunities with your existing customers, or at least customers that you have some sort of GDAP relationship with. There are also some resources just in general for AI, the trends and research. So whenever you're talking to more financially oriented customers, so they can kind of see that they don't want to be left behind, that other people are using these AI services. To get familiar with Copilot ourselves so that we can be better equipped to sell. We are 100% in agreement with you, and anytime we can give feedback to Microsoft, we do so. Which is why we do believe it will be something that's going to be available. I'm hoping maybe some announcement at Inspire in July, but potentially something beforehand. It's not only Microsoft that's dictating this, right? This is the whole, all companies are talking about AI. Samsung is all in with their S24 phone that has AI on there. If any of you have been or watched the CES 2024 event, you are aware of Rabbit One, which is also taking it by storm. The Apple was it like Vision Pro something that's supposed to be like $3,000 US and all that. The pre-orders smashed the records. There are 160,000 units have been made. So the future is AI. Get ready, get familiar with it and all of that. So I do believe that Microsoft will have to give their partners, access to some of these things to use internally. It's what they've done always with all of these other services. So hopefully we get some good news on that very soon so that all of you can have that little pop-up that we have right now. Want to see what you missed? Ask Copilot to recap the meeting so far.
Yeah, and it's going to be fun and yeah, and definitely worth the investment for MSPs, right? This isn't just a toy you're going to play with, and is AI good for you? It really is a learning tool for how you can go to market with this down the road. So definitely recommend, again, assuming your tenant is ready. Yeah, we'll leave it there. With just a minute left here, just a quick reminder, and you'll see some of this float out here externally and not too long, but here's some of the stuff we're cooking up. So Copilot Roadshow here, we're looking a lot around the setting up your practice, or let's say a quarter of it is going to be around the sales component, but then the back half will certainly be the tenant readiness. We're going to look at Entra in detail, Purview as well, in greater detail, some of the plugins and extensibility available. So that's upcoming. Again, your AMs, and you'll see some more publications from us on these events. The Purview training is really going to be Purview specifically, again, keeping in line with Copilot, the requirements there. Data governance, what is it? How do you go about it? What controls you have access to? How can we communicate that to customers, or the importance of such to a customer? These are all things that we're working on. And the and more, and maybe last time, the last poll for the day here is I didn't forget, but just one more poll here. And again, just an effort to keep us honest, to keep us giving the right things here. So we're looking at Purview. We know Copilot, obviously the buzz and the reason many of us gathered here today. What else could we do to better support you? Is this around Entra? Is this around Teams rooms? Is this Sophia? You name it. Which component of Microsoft space could you use some support on? Would you like us to see, like us to develop some content or training around? Arc, yeah, absolutely. Azure, yes, you Intune Autopilot, Stupendous. So the Intune Autopilot, that you can reach out to your AM. We have some content on that we can walk through. Lighthouse, absolutely. This is one that we're clamoring for as well. Lighthouse is really curious because our access as a CSP is different than what you have access to. So our ability to really understand and to say it adequately is somewhat affected, but we're working on that. practical use around Copilots, absolutely more customer scenarios. What does this really mean, and how do we socialize this to end users? Love it. I think that's going to be a really fun one. Migration, Teams Voice, absolutely there too. Teams Voice is kind of how I got my roots in the Microsoft space here. So by all means, do reach out to your AM. I'll sit and chat Teams Voice as long as anyone will listen. So I'd love to be a part of that. And I do have some trainings made, very basic end user to how to deploy from an admin standpoint. Goes through a MS 700 together as well. Teams Premium, awesome. So we'll gather all these and we'll look
It's
at them
past
carefully.
3 p.m. on the East Coast. Not sure you were aware because time does really much fly. Uh, Very grateful for everyone that joined in record numbers. That was pretty amazing. One of the first times that we ran this as a Teams webinar instead of just a Teams meeting. For some of the last questions that were on there, there is a distinction between the transcripts and the rules that we have in place with a webinar versus a meeting. So you wouldn't have this kind of tug of war of who hosts the meeting, who has access to the transcript to have insights from Copilot. You would be able to, unless they have put those same controls in place, like whenever you're talking to a customer, even if it's their meeting, as long as transcriptions are turned on, your Copilot will be able to see this information and help you. With just a little more restrictive on these services. Like James said, lots of in-person roadshows coming, more webinars coming. We'll have a whole library of those webinars. So wherever you are on those, you'll be able to kind of start from the beginning and catch up. But there's nothing like diving headfirst and trying it yourself, right? Like we could tell you as much as we want about the experience of swimming and how it feels when you're in the water and all that, but until you jump in, you will not know.
Amazing analogy. Yeah, super cool. So yeah, on that note, we will let everyone get back to the day. I still see a bunch of you here. By all means, let me see if I can turn on. I do have a slight gap here. I don't think I can go back and change the settings to allow people to speak. Cameras, we can do cameras and mics. 160 of us, as long as we're all on best behavior and take turns and raise hands. I could turn on the I could turn on the camera. Alex, I don't know if you have anything coming up now.
Yep, I'm late for my
Probably.
next meeting as usual.
I assumed. All right, now so I see the numbers are dropping. I think people just got scared of me talking to me for a little bit here, and that's absolutely fine. Wish you all an amazing rest of the day. Thank you for taking the time, and we'll be back with more shortly.
Thanks, everybody.